All right, we are live, and I'm going to wait a few seconds while YouTube and StreamYard figure out how to talk to each other. And once I see that they're doing that, oh, there we go. All right, welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Today is Deconversion Hangout. If you're deconverting, are curious about deconversion and the process, I'm more than happy to help you out. I'm not like a trained psychologist or anything, but I've been deconverting from Christianity for almost 10 years now. That's actually, I'm going to load up a special stream for that date. So there's that. And just a reminder, there's a goal in chat. If we get to 10 super chats this week, and I'm at the very lowest monetary value, I think I'll have another hat reveal. I saw one at my employer that might be a good hat for a hat reveal, given the coming summertime. So we'll see if that happens. So, but let's let's get a roll call here. Let's see. Fred was here first. Then the cranky elder gods showed up. And then Katie, I'll talk about Katie G and his influence on me so far, which has been near zero, and not a positive. Anne Marie, welcome. I Killed Earl's here. Hi, Earl. Evan is here. Alex is here. Welcome, Alex. And welcome all that I can see there's more than those in watching the stream. So welcome to one and all. I did want to deal with what happened a couple of days ago with Kenny G. He sent me a letter. He sent me the letter that supposedly the Smithsonian thinks the Bible's history. I looked at the letter. The letterhead is sus. There was no like links back to the Smithsonian Institute itself, and all that stuff. And so I went to the actual Smithsonian Institute website and put in the search engine letter about historical biblical stuff. And lo and behold, there is a letter that pops up about Noah's flood and all that stuff. And the final conclusion by the Smithsonian Institute is that the Bible should be viewed as a religious text and not a historical one. Okay, so there was that aspect of it. And the other letter that he sent me actually came from a Mormon site. So yeah, the Mormons don't have a good track record in general with being truthful. What kind of pastor was I? Well, let's see. I started off as an Assemblies of God minister, ordained in 2001 in the Michigan district. I was pastor of two churches and a Christian education director in my first church with another guy. So there's that. So, and then at that point, I left the Assemblies of God, and for the last 10 years of my ministry, I was an independent congregationalist. So, which is a great way of saying a very basic Christian with a basic church. So, it sounds like Fred, Evan, I Killed Earl, Alex. Yeah, I know. It's the gang of usual suspects. And Deconversion Hangout has a couple of purposes. One, to deal with deconversion issues, but also to provide like a place for people to be theist free. So, yeah, but hey, no problem. I mean, you can verify all that. I mean, call the Assemblies of God Michigan District, list their ordination list for 2001. My last church congregation probably would get annoyed. They don't have a secretary or anything. They're too small. So the Bible certainly has some historical application as it does any myth or legend. It speaks of the society in which it was created. It's not a historical text. Exactly. And I think that's what the Smithsonian actually says. Like their whole explanation, Fred, was basically this is a text that was created by a religious group of people that had certain views of how the universe was created, and there's a definite link to like the Gilgamesh epic in the creation story. So their view was basically it's a religious text and it's mythology. So I don't know where this other letter came from. It's fascinating to me. I'm still trying to track down its real origin, but it's amazing to me that people will see a letterhead and automatically assume that that's where it came from. Back in the day when letters were a thing, there was always these newspaper articles about beware the letterhead that's false because anybody can copy somebody else's letterhead. So yeah, they have a prepper culture because, like most Kyle, and welcome Kyle, but like most religious groups, Kyle, that are like that, they have like an end of the world scenario. Okay, and so that's kind of um, the way it was. So they have this idea that the world will end someday, and so yes, they have a prepper culture. So sorry about that. Yeah, my throat is bothering me a little bit. I spent a ton of time yesterday dealing with dust, and so I'm fairly certain my throat is dusted up. So yeah, they're ready for the apocalypse. Um, there's a bunch of those like that, or the JWs are the same. They're ready for the apocalypse. Fundamentalist Christianity is ready for the apocalypse. Evangelicals are ready for the apocalypse. They want Jesus to come back and destroy the world so they can get on with ruling the next one. So, I mean, yeah, it has element. It's names, dates, and names and places, right? Not too many dates and not too many events, though. Yeah, left-handed. You know, I don't know. Is right-handed Sith still around? I can't remember. Yeah. If I was in your car, I'm sure I would have fallen asleep in your sermons. Have you ever caught somebody sleeping while you were preaching? Um, uh, my preaching voice is very different than my speaking voice. Like today, like I know that like for radio, I have a very soothing voice, and I've been told that before. Like it's mesmerizing, and people can fall asleep. But when I preached as a Pentecostal in particular, add a lot more inflection, emotion, a lot more power. So much so that I can very rarely do that anymore because I think I've ruined my vocal cords on that particular aspect. Like I have a difficult time shouting or anything like that anymore without hurting myself. And I think it's from all those years of being a Pentecostal preacher. Um, I ended up doing that. But yeah, people fell asleep during my sermons. I think that's a lot of part of it. Like in my last churches, our service was at 9 o'clock in the morning. And like Sunday's like one of the few days some people get to sleep in, and I'm making them get up early so they can be at church. And then they would fall asleep. So as a storyteller should borrow and adjust stories to fit their needs, the Bible's no different. Exactly. And that's kind of that was the it was funny because this guy's trying to throw the Smithsonian Institute. I'm like, I don't think the Smithsonian Institute would say something like that. And it turns out they don't. Let's put the actual story history behind religious text is always far more interesting. Zealous spirituality is cool, but all the boring reality is far more relatable. Yeah, it is. I mean, if you consider like Yahweh as a tribalistic war god who serves the Israelite people, and all the other religions also have their gods and consort goddesses, and somewhere in the development of their religion, they got rid of the female side of things for some reason. Like Ashtoreth, there's good evidence that Ashtoreth was Yahweh's consort at one point, and then suddenly they got rid of it. And it's an interesting, like, why the hell did they do that? Okay, kind of thing. So Yeah, I'm sure the Catholics don't want the apocalypse, Fred. There is way too much money in religion, especially for them. Okay, well, good, good. I'm glad that you can do chores and all that stuff too. I think that's kind of the trick with my streams is be doing something else while listening. So I that's it. That's your snide remark for the day, Fred. Okay, I'll hold you. Well, I'm not going to hold you to that. No, probably not. See, my high school teacher had a massive pair of cymbals for the occasion someone fell asleep. When I was teaching, I didn't do that. I would like walk by their desk and like as close to their head as possible. I'm not going to do it here. Um, I would slap the desk, right next to them, and it tended to work. So there's that. You like how gravelly it is? Oh, all right, fair enough. Oh. Let's see. My grandmother was some God. Her favorite preacher was removed because his daughter became too sinful. Yeah, that could happen. Um, I saw it about 3 times in my 30 years in the Assemblies of God that people were removed because of their children being bad. I saw a deacon removed because he couldn't keep his kids under control. There was one pastor who stepped down because one of his I think it was his son, his oldest son, left the house and became gay to them. He announced that he was gay, and so they removed him. These are all the small stories of religion in small churches where this petty shit happens all the time. And I have heard of ministers being removed because their children were out of control. Because there's that that verse in First Timothy, rules your children with gravity, keeps your kids under control, which is such a subjective thing that, yeah, if you really want to pull the politics of it and get rid of somebody, yeah. So, yeah, they pulled the marble and got rid of L and the other gods in the rewrite. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, that's the thing about Lilith is it's a later thing. Um, I don't know. Somebody came up with that idea, or they're re-recording in the some of the maybe legendary material that the Jews had. Some people believe that, like you know, that sort of thing. But Lilith has this controversial around her for a good reason. So. See, I saw a clip of JW music video where God came down and ended the world with a bow and arrow, which conjured the lyrics from a David Rovik song, Adam's arm is greater than the sword, which makes me wonder. Well, Kyle, the thing about it is the JWs, the Mormons, fundamentalist evangelical Christianity in the United States have always longed for this end of the world scenario, which allows them to not be very good stewards of the world they live in now. They can always punt. It's one of the problems that I have with afterlife beliefs and end of the world apocalyptic scenarios. It's like, I live here and I don't want the world to end, kind of thing. Um, yeah, but yeah. So yeah, I can see that. But yeah, there's definitely an end of the world kind of bullshit to a lot of these things, and it scares me from time to time because they keep getting closer. So let's see. Dad taught math for 30 years. He used to bounce tennis balls off a sleeping student's desk. Yeah, my one of my colleagues when I was teaching in Texas, he had like oh crap, I probably still have one, but it's like a ball, a foam ball that looks like a world because we taught world geography, and he would like literally bounce it off desks near my. Hell no, I won't be on bottom. Yeah. Well, this is a great story. How is the Christian apocalypse going to play out? Plague, famine, and hellfire, or you'll trouble where angels and God come to kill us with all primitive weaponry? Um, the last time I saw a apocalyptic view preacher do his thing, uh, it was a while ago, but the idea is like if you take Revelation and you try to turn some of the stuff into modern weaponry, you get that. Like blowing up an entire city with fire, you can easily turn into nukes. But yeah, no, I just don't. I don't feel that that they're all of the above. If you look like at the Four Horsemen, like you get conquest, political achievement, destroying people. You get war, killing people. You get famine. You get disease. You get death of all kinds of forms. And so, yeah. Um, but yeah, it's a little bit of all of that, Kyle. I'm sure you've spoken to Jesus himself that he loves me. Did you get that from him, or you just make that up? I don't think Jesus loves me because I'm not really sure he existed. Um, there's so many petty things. I once laughed in an awkward moment. Everyone looked at me and pretended not to notice. Yeah, Alex. Yeah, it's kind of there. Uh, well, teach Yahweh. First of all, your name confuses me. But no, this is a deconversion hangout. It was people deconverting from their faith, wanting to talk, and I kind of guide them through that. I've been deconverting almost 10 years now myself from Christianity. So, deconstructing to talk about without being preached at. Yes, that's probably a good way to put it. You know, why save the world when destroying it is much more fun? Yeah, Evan. I I get it because the world sucks sometimes, and they have this desire for this perfect world that they have in their head. The problem is, I just don't. Yeah, so yeah, it I don't get it. Okay, that far of it. I think making the current world better is a lot more work, and they don't want to do it too. I think there's some laziness to apocalyptic views. So the preacher couldn't lead his own family. He couldn't lead the church. My grandmother, uh, 11, was really pissed. She knew how much control one had on their children. Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem with that requirement for a lot of ministers is, my kids, I have 3 kids. They're all, former pastors' kids, and they all have scars from that because they were expected to be certain things that they didn't feel was fair. And I agreed with them that it wasn't fair. And one time I got into it with one of my deacons about, because my kids went to public school. And they're like, you got to get them out of that evil public school. And I was like, no. There's too many good opportunities. My oldest son played football. He ended up turning that into a coaching career. My middle son became much more confident because he was allowed to do sports and academics and stuff like that. And my daughter, same, like all of them benefited from that. And I was going to pull them out of that, but I did have a big row of your kids are out of control in the public school by going to public school and all that shit. And yeah, I kind of did it. Yeah. So, yeah, it's always amazing how when people talk about apocalyptic scenarios, they always assume they're going to be the initial survivor. This plague is going to wipe out 90% of the human population, and I'm going to be one of them that's not. uh, no. Honestly, Ben, I think my made up deity is more plausible than that. I have Fangs, the bunny who nibbled for our sins. Nom nom. His purpose is to remove religiosity from vegetables. And to me, that's just as believable as the Jesus story. I don't get why we're sinners. We don't seem to have a choice about it, whether we're like it or not. Yeah, that's part of the problem, and that's why I consider the whole gospel basically a sales pitch. Having preached it for 20 years and believed it for 40, looking back at it, it's now much more of a sales pitch because that nobody bothers to prove that sin, this transgression against God, exists. They just assert it as if it's true, and then they run with that assumption. It's one of the long-term effects that a lot of people deal with, because you'll notice in chat, a lot of people, like even myself, I'll make remarks that humanity is kind of shit. And I have to wonder sometimes if our view of humanity has been skewed so much by this sinner ideal, like everybody's bad. And the more I look at statistics, it's like, 95% of us don't do evil shit. Okay. It's like, it's the small group of people that seems to do bullshit stuff. And actually, is humanity all that bad? And the whole idea of original sin doesn't really give us a choice about that. So it's a long-term effect, I think, sometimes, Alex, on our minds that humanity is bad. But I do good stuff every day, pretty much. I try to. When I see somebody needs help, I help them. And a lot of people are like that. I think the majority of people are like that. And we just don't see it because we're conditioned through both evolution and, maybe even a little indoctrination from religions that human beings are bad. And we're not. Okay. We're just people. Jesus existed. He might have thought you were pretty cool. He might have loved you. Yeah, Kevin, that's probably a more accurate statement. I don't know. The problem is I'm a Gentile, and I'm also like the child of many generations of paganism. So it only became Christians in recent days. If you look at European history, and it's like, so would he? I mean, his words to the one widow are pretty harsh. It's not fit to take the food off the master and throw it to the dogs. And Jesus had this real Jews first mentality. So I'm not sure. Being selfish isn't necessarily a bad thing. We're self-interested. We all do self-interested things, but I'm not sure it's always selfish. Part of our self-interest is sometimes doing good for others so that they will reciprocate. Reciprocity is a key part of human behavior. So, atheist trolls. What amazes me, Anne Marie, is they literally became subscribers for at least 20 minutes. So, oh my gosh. Oh. Let's see, Jesus was a cult leader, taught far more than was more important. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he definitely taught that. He says, unless you hate your brother, and people are like, well, that's not what he really meant. And it's like, well, then he's a poor communicator. Okay. I find it hard to believe that somebody who's God in flesh is such a poor communicator. But yeah, the word hate there means hate. It's not ambiguous like a lot of theists like to make it, but you do have to hate your father, mother, brother, and sister in order to follow him. You have to put Jesus that far ahead of everybody else. So gotta run down here and acknowledge. Thank you, Cranky. Yeah, caress that like number, maybe nibble it too. There we go. So there's that. I'm feeling artistically inclined. I'm going to work on the next installment of Fangs and his garden patch this weekend. Outstanding. I'm glad you're feeling artistically inclined. I always get the benefit of that in a large amount of laughter and a large amount of admiration. Yeah, and you sin for his death. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, his death only becomes necessary and a wonderful thing if we actually sin. So we need to sin more. Yeah, there's part of the logic there. Came up with my own made-up deity, an alternate, because I was 12. Yeah, exactly. We do the fangs thing it's kind of like Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe for the skeptic. It's like my way of illustrating the absurdity of religious thought. Like you can literally make up anything thinking like a religious person. Like you just have to assert things as true and not prove them, and then act as if they're true. Theology does that. I have a master's degree in theological studies, so one of the things that you learn to do in theology is just make shit up. So, so. Yeah, that's the whole point of the sin doctrine. I get into this argument often, Katie, with Christians like that. Well, you see people doing bad things to each other. That's not the way sin is defined by the Bible. The sin is defined by the Bible as a transgression of the law of God. Okay, so there's a lot of assumptions behind that statement. One, that there's a God. Two, that he gives commandments. And three, that he gets pissed off because we don't obey them. And all of those things have to be proven before you can even prove that sin exists. And none of them work. So that's kind of the way it goes. So there's that. Let's see. Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it. I promise to nibble that fangs may be pleased. Kevin Berry, thanks for the good work, Ed. Thanks. Thank you. Much appreciated. You guys are awesome. I appreciate your support. Hey, Triple E, man. I was just talking about you the other day. I don't know if you were even here. But yeah, thanks. Thanks for the support, Triple E. But yeah, I was talking about your story, how when you originally came here, you were in much trepidation and deconversion wise, you've changed. And, I'm still allowing you to go through the process and helping you when I can. So I do appreciate you, though, very, very much. Oh, if heaven is full of Christians, then thanks Satan, I'm going to. Yeah, I'm kind of with Mark Twain on that one. Heaven for the climate and hell for the company. I don't know. I find a lot of, I won't say all Christians, because I've met some good Christians on this channel that actually had genuine discussions with me, and we've had a good, respectful relationship, but they're rare and far between. Since the rise of presuppositionalist apologetics, they've just become even more asshole. So I'll just put it that way. So, but yeah, I would rather go with people who think for themselves and don't just follow the crowd. And I think that's the problem. I think religion is designed to keep people conforming to whatever society it's formed in. And I'm just not a very good conformist. So there's that. I don't know. Honestly, I don't have time tomorrow. Friday is kind of my day to be creative and relax, because it's the end. Tonight's my end. I work at night, and this is the end of my work week tonight. So it's my last stream before, and then I do a Saturday stream myself. So, so Godless Doctor, good to see you doing the Lord's work. Outstanding. Hope you are too. I know what you mean. Hey, asshole, good to see you, man. Oh. Okay, so Evan's getting ready to nibble some pasta and veggie sauce in honor of fangs. See, we've started something, Earl. We've started something. Nobody can say we didn't create anything special, because I think the whole fangs thing is rather special. I know you weren't there, Triple. Somebody was talking about what my purpose of my channel was, and I gave you as a good example of the deconversion aspect of my purpose, which is to kind of guide people through deconversion. And I cited you as an example. I didn't know if you were there. I had a crowd of, oh gosh, probably 20 some people, and only 10 of them were talking in chat. So it's like, that's kind of some of you get on and you just listen, and I'm grateful for that. It gives me algorithm stuff, but it's like it's you're a good example of somebody who came to me with honest, genuine questions, and we've been dialoguing back and forth. And I've been, you've gone through a lot of phases, and I've been tried to be there for you. And honestly, if you went back to Christianity, I'd still like you and can still consider you a friend. So, because the way you've approached it is the way that most Christians should approach this topic, and I wish more of them did. I know you're deconverting probably still, so, but yeah, I felt you were a good example of how to do that. So, yeah, they got I don't know anything about the dude yet, Ronald, the new Pope. What is it? Is it Pius, or which one did they do? Leo, or they always rename these poor bastards. I don't know why they can't just go with their name, Yeah. See that? Yeah, I was really anxious. The channel gave me a logical framework to view deconstruction and atheism. I just needed someone to explain. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Okay, so Pope Leo the 14th. He's American. What part of America? We have to be clear here, because there's America and there's America. U.S. American Pope, really? Wow. Is he I thought he was like, the thing I got is like his family's from El Salvador, though. So he's like Hispanic. So there would be some in America that would not consider him a true American. Yeah, they got white smoke on the third day. I'm impressed. That's efficient. There have been some that have lasted for a month. I remember, God, wasn't it? Was it John Paul the First or John Paul the Second? Like, they took forever to pick. I remember hearing about that. So he's the first American Pope. Well, there we go. So he can actually speak English. I'm sorry, it was just there. It was hanging fruit. So got to carry in groceries for mom. Teach's stream on Saturday, just a thought. I don't know if I react to streams. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. I'm the problem I have most of the time anymore with theists is I'm looking for certain evidence and they never want to give it. So no problem, Triple E. Oh, so yeah, we're doing the Lord's work because he's not doing anything. Fair point, Katie. Fair point. My excuse is that the rhubarb cheesecake I made today is an offering to Fangs as well. See, you people are figuring this out. What would a rabbit eat? And that's the proper offerings to Fangs. He's from Chicago? Holy cow. Now that's an interesting choice. Because let's be honest about the United States, despite the resurgence of Christian nationalism, America has been losing religiosity over the last, 5 decades. And, I think they're alarmed that like 1 in 10 Americans is now pretty much either an agnostic or an atheist of some sort, although I yell at agnostics for that. But, and then you have a whole bunch of people like if you walk down the street, 3 out of 10 Americans don't have a religion. They basically don't follow anything. So, yeah, no, they change them to these really cool names. So I get it. It's marketing. It's marketing. Leo. Has anybody done a meme with an astrological sign yet of Leo yet? Chicago. It's okay. You are a friend. You've been a friend for the channel for a while. I mean, you're like a member and a mod here, so I don't give those out to just anyway. Well, I do if you pay enough money. I guess that's true. Second day, not third. They changed the names because they changed gender from bishop to pope. Fair point, Michael. Oh, yes, there is a 3-year decision about the Pope. There's also been wars about this in the past. Like there were 2 popes several times in history, and they had wars about it. Yeah, I was just thinking about the newer popes. I seem to remember one in my lifetime where they had a long, long debate about who the Pope was going to be. Silly hats, and they changed their names. Yes, start wearing the dresses and the silly hats and change their names. They have a drone jamming gun at the Vatican. Well, I kind of saw that the equipment to fight drones was going to start to escalate because people don't like them flying over their house. Like, leave me alone, kind of thing. Hey, Hurricane. Yes, Katie, you are correct in your memory. This is one of the centers for child abuse in the Catholic Church in America. So, born in 1955 in Chicago, Robert Francis Prevost. I knew a Prevost. Well, yeah, technically, the last pope was Latin American, but you have to talk to Americans about who the real Americans are. They'll let you know. Yeah, they have a lot of money, and they have definitely invested in that because the Vatican thrives on secrecy. I mean, look at the election process on this one. It's a secret ballot. They burn the ballots and the results. They don't. The only thing we know about the final result is like it's a super majority. I can't remember. It's like 75, 66% of people have to back the Pope. The Cardinals do. So I don't know. So there's that. But yeah, they have tons of money, and so yeah, they invest heavily in privacy, security, electric, all that. There's probably some monk running around in a monk's dress that also has like top-notch anti-spamware viral stuff. There's probably a whole wing of the Vatican of that stuff now. So but they value the privacy. Is the Pope related to Trump? I don't think so. Because one of his first statements to Trump was about his lack of compassion for immigrants. So yeah, that fight's already started. They're just chilling. Let them chill. Yeah, you're right. There were 3 popes for a while. Yeah, I forgot about that part of history. It's always so confusing, the popery. The problem is that the cat is the largest organization going, like it or not. It makes a new boss, Global News. Yeah, the new Godfather's in town. So Kathy Kirk kissing up the global superpower shocking. I'm shocked, I tell you. Have I kissed up to a power? Yes. Members of biker groups have nicknames too, as do street gangs. Even Canadians call U.S. Americans Americans. See, this is the thing about the whole American thing. It's really hard to say United Statesians. That just doesn't work. Um, the, the United States does have that problem. Like, how do you turn it into some sort of designation of a people group? And so you kind of just, well, we're Americans. And I don't know. We're using the last thing, the United States of America, and we say America, and so therefore we're Americans. So, but yeah. So, Master Blake. Yeah. Well, okay. Will be made available to the general class because there will be big profits to it. Correct, Ronald. Well, shots fired. Okay. A Father Guido. You have an image of Father Guido Sarnowski sporting an AK. I'm sorry. The way I look at the Roman Catholic Church, and I have to be careful, I suppose, but I'm not going to be. But like, I have relatives that are Catholics, but I've flat told them out that it's much like The Godfather, only with a better image, because they do some of the same shit. Like, there's this, the genuflection, the kissing the ring, all that authority crap, and I just don't have time for that anymore in my life. Especially a manufactured authority like the Catholic Church, which has just basically manufactured its own authority and power, and rolls with that. I speak for God, so therefore, kind of thing. And I just, yeah. Let's see. He spent decades outrage missionary in Peru. He was also a naturalized Peruvian. Okay, so he has dual citizenship. Well, triple citizenship, because he's a U.S. citizen because of birth. Although maybe Trump will get it so that he's not. Were his parents both citizens? That kind of bullshit. And the Peruvians gave him citizenship, and he's also a citizen of the Vatican by virtue of being a cardinal. So, yeah. There you go. I talk shit about a lot of things. I don't know what to think of him yet. I know there's some people that think he fired shots at Trump because of a tweet he did about compassion. So I don't know if I'll tell you what, if he kicks the one cardinal out of the Vatican and removes his cardinalship that's been hiding out there, and tells him to go back to, where he came from, so that they can prosecute him by the law, then I'll be impressed. Until then, I'm not impressed. So, call them U.S. aliens. Okay, fair enough. You had Catholic relatives that were all assholes. Okay, fair enough. Unis. In German, the short form is Ami, which is sometimes a little derogative. Well, I can see that. You got to understand, I have very mixed feelings about. I'm very patriotic as far as my people, the people known as Americans. But as a libertarian, I'm completely suspicious of my government and don't trust it worth a damn, which is in American tradition. Like, if you look at the founding fathers, they didn't trust government either. So that's why they designed it the way they did it, so that government could do very little except what was necessary, and had to jump through a lot of hoops to do it. So, I'll allow it. Wherever your creative Venn goes, Earl, like, because they have a new pope, we might circumvent that and do Catholics next, but Pentecostals are up there too. So whichever creative desire send you. I know Pentecostalism can be like tricky because of the many branches of it. So, but Catholics are, right now with their new pope, that might be a opportunity for us. So, The only thing I enjoyed about going to the Catholic Church was the smell of their incense. I think that's the thing, and I know people who will smell certain smells and think religious thoughts. I don't know if it comes from that because smell is like has a high memory value. We remember smells more than a lot of other things, and I often wondered if, like, when we did incense in my last church, every once in a while, people, oh yeah, it's like they remember, all this stuff that happened in the church. So yeah. Hello, Victoria. Let's see. We're even an agnostic theist. Yes, most of my theist life. When I look back at it, that's kind of where I was. Like, it's okay, I believe, but I'm not sure I have the ability to prove what I believe. And that bothered the hell out of me. And that's why I eventually deconverted. I was still in the pulpit when I left Christianity, but I was still preaching it for another 3 years. So, um, so yeah, being an agnostic theist means you believe in God or some sort of God, but you don't believe you have the knowledge to prove it. Okay. And I think a lot of theists actually are there. They believe, but they know they don't have the proof of it. So I think that's kind of agnostic theism is kind of the driving force, in my opinion, behind a lot of presupposition stuff is I believe it. I don't have the proof for it, but I believe it, but you have to prove me wrong. Okay. So yeah, I'm fairly certain he won't take anti-brown racism, probably won't be high on his list. So yes, we're all waiting for him to do as he promised, or we won't be impressed. Otherwise, he's just another guy that promised a bunch of bullshit. So there's that. Hey, Wolf, change your name, huh? Party Wolf Media. Okay. Yeah, I mean, agnostic theism is kind of deism. I mean, you could be an agnostic theist of a particular god, I guess. Um, you have too many interests to be just one algorithm. Honestly, I understand. Let's see here. Hold on. Let's start a poll right now. Which art should Earl do next? Given the new Pope. Switch to Catholic. To be timely. Or stick with Pentecostals. All right. There we go. There you go. I put it in there. There's the poll. The chat has been, we'll throw that up there. Yeah, I mean, you could look at it as deism. Well, except Michael, there have been attempted hijackings before by various parties in the history of the United States, and it hasn't gone well for them. Usually in the end, like the popular appeal of people wins out. And Americans are a rowdy lot that don't like to be told what to do. So as a general rule, like we're not conformists. We argue a lot with each other. So there's that. So I've already seen the numbers. Like it's not looking good for the Republicans for Congress next year. In 2026, it's already polling badly. there's a conglomerate poll out there that says 47% of Americans feel that Trump has gone too far, and that's pretty high if you ask me, but it could be true. So yeah, it's Americans in general don't, when they get everything one way, like it's all conservatives or all liberals, they eventually regret that decision and switch it around. So we always seem to do that. It's the flaw of the two-party system is when one group does finally get all the control, they kind of like, Americans don't like that and they move it. It's been pretty much historically true. So Fangs just follows the rule of not making any promises. He's a demigod with certain powers, and he has a mission in his life to remove religiosity from vegetables. So his only promise is that he will continue on his mission. So, and you can help or not. So I don't know if Fangs will ever make any promises. I'm trying to create some aspects of his deity that are better than the rest of them. And false promises and exaggerated claims are kind of the hallmark of most other deities. So, having no proof of their deity. Yeah, it's there's a lot of them that do. Let's see. So the new poor might be deported to El Salvador. Maybe. See, that this is a unique situation because technically Trump and the U.S. government have some authority over this guy because he is a U.S. citizen. So there is certain things they could do if they feel from a U.S. citizenship standpoint to the new pope. So yes, he'll deliver on any promises he makes eventually, like most gods. So let's see. Yeah, I don't believe there can be any arguments for an unknown God without apologetics or presuppositions. I can't think of any reason to believe in an unknown God that I don't have to just assume. Yes. Dragon Rider. Outstanding observation. I watched a video about the history of the papal conclave, and I know there's no way the deity involved in this process. It's all politics. Provost cozied up to Francis, and that's why he became pope. And that's probably true. Francis, like, what is it, like 105 of the cardinals out of 135 are his appointees. So you knew that this was going to be like pro Francis. Like Francis did a good job politically. Okay, if I'm analyzing it politically, of protecting his legacy, and people like Biden and Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have taken notes if they could have seen it at this time for Ruth. But like you have to take measures to protect your legacy. And so what he did is he made sure all the cardinals, he did two things. He made a lot of the cardinals are his picks, and two, he spread them out around the world. Like he got rid of a lot of the European ones and moved them to other parts of the country. He's like, we're a worldwide church. We should have worldwide representation. And so, yeah, so there's that aspect. But from a political point of view, I got to give Francis props because he protected his legacy and he put people in position that was going to be what he wanted after he was dead. So, you don't think America's that smart yet? Yeah, there could be a valid point there. I'm just telling you, Cranky. There's polls everywhere, all over the place. So, but I know historically Americans do not like it when one party gets control of things. And usually there's some sort of switch the next election. So historically, that's proven true many, many times. So, Roddy, you haven't met the French. I was having a discussion at work about languages the other day with one of my colleagues, one of the people I work with, and he was like, certain languages just have certain feelings to them with the way they're spoken, and he mentioned German, and he mentioned French too. He says, it's like German always feels like they're angry about something, and then French is like they all sound like they're ready to make love to something. So, but yeah, they do get rowdy. The French do get very passionate, shall we put it that way? So, believe any of them were true. I believe different paths to God, and that's it. Or it's full of shit. Yes, exactly. Yes, Fangs is making a promise not to make any promises more than necessary, and it is another divine mystery. We have mysteries for this one, so we will see how Fangs does in the promise department. So, but I don't. I, my feeling from Fangs is that he does not have the desire to make promises that he won't keep, and so he's not going to make any. So, yeah, we are very curmudgeony. Like we fight among ourselves. Like I mean, look at American sports. I mean, if we don't have anything to fight about, we'll pick a sports team and fight about that. So it's like you like the idea of a rabbit being the perfect model for a god. Yeah, I do too. Rabbit symbols are much more prolific, pun intended, than I thought. The more I like work in retail, and it's not just Easter that rabbits show up in retail. They're everywhere. They're like all over the place. They're like a symbol of A, fertility, or B, speed. Like, if you go to the automotive section, some of the companies have like a rabbit symbol, that sort of thing. So, yes, the Pope is a head of a state too. The Vatican is a authorized state. I do believe it's still part of the UN. So, question is the papal convent. Okay. Bangs promises to never actually exist and stands by that promise. I think I can buy that one. Yeah, given what the Catholic Church, Francis isn't too bad. He was quite decent. Yeah, he wasn't bad. I would have liked to seen him go after some other things, but he didn't do that. So, what do you think about the Christian claim that the Bible proves its authority by its prophecies? Well, it's really easy to ad hoc, post hoc a prophecy. You can make up any story or way of looking at any event so that it fulfills a prophecy. I mean, I could come up with a prophecy of Fangs. Fangs might utter a prophecy, and then all I have to do is find an event that sort of kind of matches it. Most biblical prophecies also, they're right up there with horoscopes. Like they're so general, like like the whole idea of Israel becoming a nation again. So what? There's plenty of people that have not been nations, got their nation removed, then retook it over and became a nation again. That's a fairly common historical thing, um, by and large. So I don't know. It's easy to say something fulfills prophecy after the fact. Okay, you can just make up how it fulfills the prophecy. And this was my problem when I was a Christian. I'm like, well, that, like particularly like the Gospel of Matthew, like he literally says like he will be called a Nazarene, and they're like, where the hell does that come from? The only thing you can get is like the root of Jesse being the righteous branch, and that's why he's called a Nazarene, and that's why he lives in Nazareth. And it's like, what a stretch to get that to fit prophecy, but you can do that. And also, I would also argue there's a ton of failed prophecies too. Like there are nations that the prophets promise will absolutely be destroyed, and then they're never destroyed. They're still here. Tyre and Sidon are good examples of a biblical prophecy gone wrong. So, uh, the prayer causes performance anxiety. I think is what it is, Ann. It's pretty, not romantic. Well, it depends on how it's said and in what context, Evan. It's stronger in German. You knew in the 80s that things were starting to change. Insurance companies began allowing encounters and winning small victories, like making it illegal to not wear a seatbelt. You lose liberty in a small bits. Yes. He called you a little rabbit, so even he sees it. Even he sees it. Outstanding. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, this is a good way to put it. Cranky puts it. It's obvious that the New Testament authors were well acquainted with Old Testament prophecies and deliberately phrased the narratives so that Jesus fulfilled them. Matthew is probably the best example of that. He is literally fishing for prophecies. It so much bothered me when I was teaching the life of Christ as a pastor. Like, God, this guy is just like pulling things out of context. And, it seems like God would do a better job. Don't underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. I've heard that. There's been tensions between Catholics and Americans because of the fear Catholics would swing America toward Rome. Yes, that's been pretty much proven too. That's why, like, when JFK was elected, that was the big fear. Like, he was going to make us into a papal state. So, yeah, they had foreign allegiances. Yes. Prophecy makes the Bible correct, and the Simpsons cartoon should be added to the Bible. Fair point, Ronald. Any hard determinist. Well, so far, Earl, the poll results are, we have 15 votes, so it's not like a good sample size, but it's definitely 2/3 in favor to switch to Catholic to be timely. So I'll leave it running until I end the stream to make it official, but that seems to be the way that we're leaning. So more than enough liberty to get ripped off by companies. Yes, we do. I mean, I'm not worried about that yet. If I was, it's the civil liberty thing that usually bother me. Yeah, so yay. Okay, yeah, it's like 2/3 to switch to Catholic because of the new Pope to be timely. So, I get it, but I know you have some plans for Pentecostal, so you could probably do the Catholic one first, and then switch to Pentecostals and you might get a lot of artwork done all at once. I don't know how you work, but seems like that. But with the new Pope, I think we can have some fun with that. I'm not sure what vegetable did we pick for Catholics. I can't remember. Was it tomatoes? So I'm always forgetting things. Running of the papal bulls. I don't know. I see. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, Earl, that once you get the Catholic stuff done, you something might enlighten you with Pentecostal. Because one of the things that's very interesting in our world is in Latin America how strong both Catholicism is and Pentecostalism. Like when I was teaching, I had like new arrivals. I had two new arrival classes, which were kids that didn't speak any English, and so I had a translator in the room with me, and we were. The problem was that I was filling a schedule that had originally been filled by a Hispanic instructor, and all of a sudden, my white Northern person got dropped in here who doesn't know any Spanish, and so they had to. So it's that kind of thing, but yeah. But one of the fascinating things about that is I talked to my students and they were either Catholic or Pentecostal from Latin America. Like they either belonged to a Pentecostal church or a Catholic, or they were Catholics. So, okay, so it's tomatoes. You didn't vote for? Yeah, I didn't either. Largely, I don't vote anymore because it's my protest against the two-party system. Like, I don't think either one of you deserve the job anymore. You're both incompetent pieces of shit. I got the Democrats that are too incompetent to realize that they're losing their base. The working class American was the base of the Democratic Party for years, and they've been ignoring them for the last decade. And and now all of a sudden they're important because they lost the election because of them. And then I got the Republicans, and well, there's some obvious problems there. So I long for third, fourth, fifth parties to vote for in the United States, but it's never happened. So yeah, they're incompetent. They're both fucking incompetent. Okay, Evan, my large problem with the Democrats is they're just incompetent politically, as evidenced by. I mean, I know Ruth Bader is supposed to be impartial, but she was a liberal justice, and she just was incompetent about thinking. In politics, you always have to think worst case scenario and how do I defend against that. Okay, she should have been thinking, well, what if Trump does get elected? I better retire. Okay, Biden gets to the midterms and we did better in the midterm. You still lost the House, bro. You need to step down and let there be a genuine Democratic primary so we can have a new candidate. And the Democrats really did need somebody new and fresh, but they were incompetent about it. So it's like, and then you got the Republicans that aren't acting like Republicans today. So, I mean, when did anybody ever think that the Republican Party would stand for tariffs, price controls on medication, and and raising taxes on the rich? When has that ever happened from Republicans? But there you have Trump talking about it. So. Yeah, strategy seems to and totally stop calling. Yes, yes. Hey, Granny, it's good to see you. Are we still on for Saturday? I believe we are. I need to send you a photo, probably. I will do that. But I think we're still on for Saturday. That's at least what it says in my calendar. So. I get it makes people that vote grumpy, but it's also, I think not voting is also a good conscious choice. It's a singular vote is not going to sway the election much. Just do the math. Okay, yeah, I will send you the photo as soon as I get off the stream. Then I will see you then. But yeah, excited about that one, Granny. Hopefully we can talk about some good stuff. I don't know if they'll ever do the age limit. I mean, you have to be 30, what is it, 30, 25 or 30 to run for president in the first place. And back in the day, that was considered old. So, yeah. But yeah, I don't know if they'll ever do that, because the problem with that is then old people are going to scream age discrimination. And I think with age, it's kind of like you have to assess the person individually. Like there's 95-year-old, 100-year-olds that have lived a long time that are very wise and have their stuff together. And there's others that are dumb, that they've lost it. So it really depends. So yeah, it's 35. That's right. 35 for running for prez. So, you have to be, and back when they created that was like old, like that was somebody who had got past their prime and was moving into a more wise time of their life, because a lot of people died at 50, 60. So, yeah, I like, let's see, I voted Libertarian for the Libertarian Party twice, once for Gary Johnson and once for, her name escapes me, because I thought it was exciting to have actual candidate that was female running for president itself. So, honestly, Triple E, I think I have an entire playlist of arguments against the existence of God. I'm fairly certain I have that somewhere, because I did that for quite a while. Like I did, like, for half a year last year, I think I did arguments against the existence of God. So there's a bunch of them, and I think I dealt with a bunch of them. So yeah. There's actually no evidence that they were persecuted. Even McDowell had to admit that 8 of them basically disappear from history. That's a trope by apologists, but when you look at the actual historicity of these people, no. And the Gospels weren't written by eyewitnesses. That's very clear from the internal text. Luke even admits that he's not an eyewitness. Well, the guy who wrote Luke admits he's not an eyewitness, that he's just talking to other people. So, but yeah, there's no evidence to that. But also, it's not a question of deception. People can be genuinely mistaken and spread false information, believing that what they think is true, but it's not. So that's another option. It's not just we're not just saying that they deceive people intentionally. Okay, like, you can have somebody be very sincere in believing something, but be very sincerely wrong. And I think a lot of we really actually we have no firsthand accounts of actual supposed eyewitnesses. Like, 8 of the apostles just drop off the planet after Acts chapter 1. Like, there's no mention of them. And then the other 4, we can prove some of them died, but none of them died for their faith. There's no example historically of any of the apostles being examined by a ruler and saying recant or die, and then them saying, I won't recant, I'd rather die than recant. There's no example of that at all. So it doesn't exist. I get what you're saying, but I could go into the math of how each individual vote is useless, especially in a presidential election. We're talking getting electoral college votes, so each state's election is more important than the national toll. But there's never been, as far as I know, an election decided by one vote in the presidential race. It's always been I think the closest was actually Florida in 2000, and it still was decided by almost 1,000 votes. So it's about getting people to believe in something and enough where they vote together in coalition. I took an economics class about public stuff, and we used economics rules on voting. The individual vote its value is 1 over n, and n is the number of votes cast in an election. When you look at it that way, get your shit together and get groups of people to vote, because that's the only way that you really have power. The individual vote is almost worthless. You really have to put it with a lot of other people. So Centrist, I'm honestly scared that people emerge that will blend the worst of progressives and conservatives, according to me, and they'll make the world just for me. Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of my argument against Yahweh. The flat Earth with 4 columns. Yeah, the cosmology is really bad. Yeah, I agree with you, Granny. The more I looked at that when I was a Christian, it was like, yeah, they're being persecuted because of their political stance, not because of their religion. And honestly, there really isn't any good records of some Roman official saying recant or die. There's a lot of Christians that say that happened, but I don't know. Maybe somebody who knows history better than I do could look up, did Romans actually try Christians for being Christians? Okay, I think that's a really good question, and I don't know if anybody's actually so there's that. It's interesting how the New Testament, they stopped believing in the disc version of the earth, the sort of square version. Yeah, because it talks about the four corners of the earth. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of narrow stories that were largely made up too. That's the problem with that whole narrative is it's so cloudy, just cloudy. Um, so it's there's a whole bunch of stories that Christians tell. There's a whole bunch of stories that Romans talk about, and Romans are much less angry about Christians than Christians are about the Romans. So um, I get it. But that's the argument too. Like we have this argument in the United States right now, Kyle, about like you're old enough to sign up for the draft at 18 and lay down your life for your country, but you're not old enough to drink. You're not old enough to do marijuana in most states where it's legal. You're not old enough to do this, that, and the other. Um, so it's like we're constantly having this debate about age, and there's no age limits in a lot of things. So yeah, they definitely are all dead, aren't they, Granny? I love it when Apologia and some of the others say that because they like, yeah, they're definitely all dead. What they died of. So yeah. Oh, yeah, it'd be much better if it was in the Bible. Well, there's also the aspect of individual conscience. Some people just don't feel it's worth it. And then, sorry, that's a legitimate decision too. If if I vote for let's say I voted instead for a third party, would you still be as mad at me? No, I mean, because you'd probably say, "Oh, well, that's a vote for the other side," but it's like, no, it's I have to get out my math thing and say, no, it's not a vote for the Republicans, it's not for the Democrats, it's a vote for the Libertarians. Okay, so, but yeah. See you later, Granny. I'll see you Saturday. I'll try to remember to send I'll send the photo as soon as I can. It's kind of arbitrary. The way I illustrate the arbitrariness of age, is I remember working on the farm, and like me and my other cousin used to drive the tractor at 10, 11, 12 all the time. And my grandfather, who was very picky about that, didn't have a problem with us doing it. The moment we said, "Can we have the keys to the car?" he changed his mind. Says, "No, no, that's involving too many more people." Again, I'm not sure you're ready for that. So yeah, age is always an arbitrary thing. So there's that aspect of it. Well, I'm running out of time. Um, but the results of the poll are we are going to definitely switch to Catholic to be more timely. So I will set Earl off on that. And she can do her thing. Um, but that's definitely the winner at this point. So I'm going to end that poll, and so we will definitely let me go that. So no, I didn't vote at all. Okay. I have an insider's view, Earl, and I know how this machine works, and I didn't like any of them either. So yes, definitely tomatoes. But yes, but it's to me, um, I know how the mechanizations work, and you can get a majority vote and still lose. So, as evidenced by some of the presidential elections. So, sorry, Philbert. I feel for you, but yeah. But it looks like we are going to definitely go with the Catholic tomatoes for the next vegetable. So we will do that. Make sure you leave a like on the video, do all the things. it doesn't mean I'm okay with anything. Okay. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to label me simply because I don't vote. Okay. You don't get to do that. That's bad form. Okay. I'm not okay with fascism, but I'm also not okay with other forms of fascism. So I just don't, and I'm not really sure the Republicans are fascist so much as they're religiously theocratic. And I have a problem with leftists too that tend to be SJWs. We talked about that too. So, but no, I don't get a label just because I don't vote. Okay, I just didn't vote. So, well, yeah, I'm not okay with fascism, and I never have been. Just because I didn't vote doesn't mean I am. Okay, that's that. I like to see the correlation on that one, let alone the causation. So, but yeah, I got to run. It's been a great stream, good discussions, good deconversion stuff too. I know that everybody is. I think we'll probably have more to talk about with Saturday about the new pope, and I think so. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting moment for all of you who have deconverted from Catholicism. You guys are always my great sources on that. Good to see you, Bren, too. I'm sorry you're late, and I'm about to quit. I didn't vote against a lot of things then. Okay, not just fascism. That's a bad argument. Okay. I know you're still grumpy, and we're still friends, by the way, Earl. I can take that argument. Well, I didn't vote against, I don't know, theocracy. I didn't vote against this. I didn't vote against that. There's a long list there, not just one thing. I didn't vote against Democrats, and I didn't vote against Republicans either. So, I mean, so there's that. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate all of you. I thanks for all the great discussion. But yeah, it's been awesome. I will see you all Saturday. It'll be later than normal because I have to do Godless Granny at 4:30, I believe, with her, and then I'm going to delay our stream till like 7. So I'll be doing a double on Saturdays. So make sure you make note of that. And check out Godless Granny's channel too while you're at it. If you haven't subscribed over there, please do so. And so make sure you guys hit the buttons as you go out. All glory to Fang's Bunny, and may your teeth ever be pointy, nom nom, and all that. And as always, thanks for stopping by. But also live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. And so you want to take all your time, your money, your opportunities, and give them to yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. And don't waste it on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, folks, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you all next time.